Talk today about the ninth plague, the plague of Choshech, darkness. First, if we think about the Choshech, Choshech is not just a lack of light. It's not just darkness. What it actually relates to is withholding or obstructing or depriving. It's not just simply an absence of light. Like we have the root of the word back in Breshit. V'lo chasakta et bincha et ichidcha. The same letters are used when God says to Avram after the Akedah, you did not withhold, you did not refrain your son from me. It's not just this sort of neutral emptiness, a choshech. It's not just this sort of it was dark outside, but it's this idea of removing something, of withholding something. It's an active deprivation, not just a passive absence. And so it's sort of, it's this idea. We'll talk, more about it, but it's not that it was dark because, it was a little bit of darkness. It's this removal or withholding of something that was expected. Now, why was that expected? Well, of course, every day is, you expect the sun rises and the sun sets, and yeah, some days you go to London and maybe it's a little cloudier and it's not as bright as we have it here in Colorado, which is a very bright place with lots of sun. But darkness is also the defeat of the Egyptian god Ra. And it's not just the sun, Ra or Amun Ra, I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, is right the supreme God. We talked about that going back to earlier plagues and Paro with his name, Paro and Ramses, the son of Ra, is the supreme God, the guarantor of order and connection, of kingship and of renewal, and the sun rising and the sunset. Ra is sort of this daily victory over darkness. And that's part of the idea of Egyptian stability. So, what do we have? We have 3 days of choshech afela, of withholding, of the failure of the sun's cycle, the sustained darkness. And so, what the Torah is telling us is that the Egyptian God who is supposed to rise unfailingly, who every day the sun goes up and then he goes to sleep at night or whatever it might be, and then the sun goes down and the sun comes back up. The plague is completely paralyzing. It's not just destructive. If Ra fails, then the Egyptian reality continues to unravel. It's not just a inconvenience like we talked about. It's not just something that's bothersome going back to the first couple of plagues, which sort of foreshadow the unraveling of the Egyptian society, the Nile and the frogs, which represent the idea of the sort of the Egyptian fertility. So this is completely the society has unraveled. Your God has completely been defeated, which would make sense then that darkness. What does it cause? It causes a complete stasis, total stasis. It's devastating for Egypt. Lo kamu ish mitachtav. Right? They can't get up. They cannot move around the Egyptians. They cannot. The divine light is God. It exposes that the Egyptian order of things is done with. They can't get up. They can't move. They can't walk around. The darkness is thick, and it's in a sense it's their undoing, it's their immobilization. It's not just sort of destruction and chaos, it's complete and utter paralysis. It's they're frozen in power. It's an empire that's unable to change, that's unable to shift, because which is indicative. Paro can't repent. Paro can't change his ways. Paro can't say that the Israelites can go free. They have complete disorder and dysfunction has taken over. And so this darkness is a complete loss. And looking at some of the other close language readings of it, right? What does it say? V'lo ra'u ishet achiv, right? It doesn't say they couldn't see objects. They couldn't see each other. It's a breakdown in recognition. It's an inability to perceive their order, their achiv, who is their partner. This Egyptian worldview, what they've set up, this order, this class system with the Paro, sort of the representative, the son of Ra, Ramses, the son of Moses, sort of Moshe, sort of the son of, he's the son of Ra. Now we have a breakdown of that. The Egyptian, where they fit in relation to Paro, where the other landowners fit in relation to Paro, where their religion fits in relation to Paro, and where those who fit who are on the lower ends of the order, the slaves, the Ivrim, the migrant. But the Egyptians, they can't see this anymore. Their society has been destroyed. Their society is a complete and utter breakdown at this moment where they can't see Achiv. And so darkness is not just it's dark, but it's this choshech, it's this withholding, which is the destruction of their society for 3 long days. And Paro is frozen. They are all frozen. It's paralysis and collapse and an inability to see anybody else. And in contrast to all of that, we have Ulachol b'nei Israel haya or b'moshvotam. Amongst the children of Israel, there was light. They could see in their dwelling places, in their houses. We could see. So it's a radical polemic, one could say, against Egyptian religion, which was in the temple, and the idea of the light. The divine presence is no longer tied to Egypt, to their empires, to their stones, to their priesthood. Who is the light with? The light, the ability to see, the ability to perceive, the ability to move in a sense in the future is now tied to the slaves, to the ordinary people. Bnei Israel is on their way and they're getting ready to move. What do Bnei Israel do at this point of time during the Makat Choshech, when the Egyptian society, when their religion, when everything is paralysis? So again, we see the verse says, "Ulechol b'nei Yisrael haya or b'moshvotam." In Perek Yud Pasuk Chav Gimel, they have light in their dwelling places. Now, according to the text of the Torah, they don't do anything. They stay in their homes. Right? It doesn't talk about Bnei Israel roaming freely, being triumphant. Right? Egypt has paralysis; they cannot move. Bnei Israel is not moving, but it's their choice. Yet they are home. They can see. They can recognize. One way of looking, and interestingly, the Midrash and Rashi note that Bnei Israel could have taken revenge. They could have escaped. They could have looted. And very importantly, they did not. They don't exploit the darkness. They don't mock the Egyptians. They don't free prematurely. They don't reverse the role of taking advantage of those who now are punished and who are suffering. And that's very important, that idea of that restraint. You think about, look, I hate to say it, the terrible. In Israel just now, there were a few people who were convicted, Israelis, Jews, I assume, convicted of looting in the aftermath of October 7th. What a horrific thing to do. They went into people's homes after the destruction happened and stole objects. That's not the way the Torah is telling us, right? We need to have restraint. And there are always going to be a couple of troublemakers, there are always going to be a couple of bad people. I don't know what to say. But restraint is crucial. Redemption is not chaos, is not chaos and uprising. Right, you can have a slave revolt is important. That could have been okay, but Israel would have revolted when they were enslaved against Paro. But redemption is going to come through God, and it's going to come through command. It's not going to come through looting and horrific behavior. Israel does not seize freedom by the destruction of Egypt. Here they wait for God's signal. Now, I understand, again, you could say a slave uprising was warranted. And part of the issue that Bnei Israel are going to have throughout the Torah, and the reason the generation does not go into Egypt, is that they don't have that strength. Right? When Moshe was first commanded to go to Paro, he was supposed to take Aaron and the 70 elders. And he has Aaron, he speaks to the 70 elders, everybody's ready. And then all of a sudden, verses later, right, it's only Moshe and Aaron at the palace. The elders disappear, they don't go along. Rashi, the other commentators point that out. They don't go along, they wait. They secretly, sorry, they don't wait, they secretly leave one by one. When Moshe kills the Egyptian early on in the book of Shmot, right, the Israelites who see him, they speak ill of him. Moshe doesn't, nobody else is standing up. Moshe is the only one who's going to stand up to the Egyptian slave master. And what do the Jews do? Who confront him the next day? They're scared. They confront him. Who made you our officer? Why do they say that? They say that because they're scared. They don't have the strength. God has to intervene because Bnei Israel doesn't have the strength to come out of Egypt. But here, that lack of strength is a great restraint. And they didn't have to show restraint. And there's a difference, again, between the slave rebellion and looting. A slave rebellion, you could say, would very well been justified by Bnei Israel. Here, they don't have that in them. But here, their restraint, their lack of looting is very, very significant and important. Midrash, there are other midrashim that go on and talk about that during this time. Bnei Israel went and they looked to see where the Egyptians were hiding their valuables, which later they asked Egyptian for. They begin perhaps internal preparations, their families, their homes, getting things ready. Right, the focus is shifting from Paro in these midrashim to the Israelite household. Right, we're asking Paro for permission. Now we're not asking Paro for permission at this point in time. We're getting ready to leave, getting the Karban Pesach ready, getting ready to put the blood on the doorpost, getting ready to to be able to leave when God gives us this signal. So the Egyptians during the darkness, they can't see one another. They are immobilized. They have their theological collapse. They cannot move. What do Bnei Israel have? Haya or b'moshvotam. We have light, and either we can stay home, we can prepare, we can go and look as to what the Egyptians really owe us, but we're not looting. We're not taking things away. We're showing a strength, a great strength. Restraint is oftentimes a great strength. And so Bnei Israel is preparing. They're getting ready for the moment. So this plague is not about what Israel does outwardly from what we're doing, but what we are becoming. A people whose redemption begins at home through discipline and through restraint, not through spectacle. And so there are a lot of lessons embedded within the idea of Choshech relating to the Egyptian gods, relating to the way that Bnei Israel acts, what we do and what we don't do. And God's withholding of this light is furthering, right? V'lo chasach et bincha yichidcha. It's withholding, it's removing. And for Egypt, there is paralysis. For Bnei Israel, there is at this point preparation as we're getting ready to move out of Egypt. And this is a great distinguishing moment between Bnei Israel and the Mitzrayim.